Naruto Uzumaki stands surrounded by dozens of enemies, each one closing in with deadly intent. Suddenly, he claps his hands together, and the battlefield floods with identical copies of himself. It's the Multishadow Clone Jutsu, a technique so iconic it became synonymous with Naruto's fighting style. But beneath its flashy appeal lies a glaring flaw. This jutsu is a chakra killer. The Multishadow Clone Jutsu allows a user to create tangible copies of themselves, each capable of independent thought and action. However, the catch is devastating. Each clone splits the user's chakra evenly, making it a high-risk move for anyone not blessed with an absurdly large chakra pool. Naruto manages to wield this jutsu with ease, thanks to the immense reserves provided by the Ninetales, but for any average shinobi, it's like pouring water into 1,000 cups from a single pitcher. You're left with almost nothing. The technique is classified as a forbidden jutsu precisely because of its chakra-intensive nature. Even for Naruto, the drawbacks are significant. Each time a clone is destroyed, its memories and experiences flood back to the original, which can be overwhelming in prolonged battles. During his early training, Naruto often found himself mentally and physically exhausted from overusing the jutsu, highlighting just how demanding it can be. While the Multishadow Clone Jutsu is undeniably versatile, it's been used for scouting, combat, and even accelerated learning. It's far from practical for the average shinobi. It represents a double-edged sword, an ability that can turn the tide of a battle but leaves its user drained and vulnerable if misused. For most ninja, it's a technique better left in the Forbidden Scroll. A kunai slices through the air, hurtling toward a shinobi. The enemy grins, confident of their strike, only for the blade to strike a wooden log where the target once stood. It's a classic ninja move, body replacement jutsu or Kawarimi no Jutsu. While it looks impressive and has saved countless lives in its early depictions, this technique is far from the foolproof escape it appears to be. Kawarimi no Jutsu works by swapping the user's body with an object, often a log or a nearby item, at the precise moment of an attack. The problem lies in the sheer number of conditions required for it to work effectively. First, the user must have an object within range that can plausibly replace their body. Second, the timing needs to be near perfect, requiring almost superhuman reflexes. And finally, even when executed correctly, the technique leaves the user vulnerable. Once replaced, their new location is often predictable, making it easy for a skilled enemy to follow up. This jutsu is a staple of academy training, taught to beginner shinobi as a way to learn the basics of evasion and misdirection. However, for more experienced fighters, it's quickly abandoned. Elite shinobi prefer faster, more versatile escape methods like substitution jutsu or teleportation techniques. Even Kakashi, who mastered countless jutsu, rarely uses Kawarimi, opting instead for more advanced strategies. In its heyday, Kawarimi served as a cornerstone of ninja tactics, but in the modern age of explosive tags and wide-range attacks, its usefulness has sharply declined. The technique represents an important step in a ninja's journey, a tool for beginners to gain confidence in combat, but as the stakes rise, its limitations become glaringly obvious. For all its early glory, body replacement jutsu is a relic of simpler times, best remembered for its dramatic flair rather than its practicality. Imagine being tied up in the middle of a mission, ropes cutting into your wrists, enemies closing in. For the untrained, this might be game over, but for a shinobi equipped with rope escape jutsu, it's a minor inconvenience. At least, that's the idea. In reality, this jutsu is one of the most underwhelming techniques in the ninja world. Rope escape jutsu allows a ninja to free themselves from physical bindings with minimal effort. It's a standard-issue skill taught at the academy, intended to teach adaptability and problem-solving. However, the technique falls apart when faced with modern combat scenarios. Chakra-infused restraints, explosive tags, or even just alert enemies render it almost useless. Most experienced shinobi don't even bother with it, opting instead to use tools like kunai, or outright brute force to escape. At best, Nawanuke no Jutsu is a nostalgic nod to traditional ninja lore. It might have a place in the training curriculum, where students need to learn resourcefulness, but it's virtually non-existent in serious battles. For anyone above genin rank, relying on this jutsu is like bringing a toy to a kunai fight, hopelessly outdated and painfully impractical. The battlefield disappears into an impenetrable haze, and the air grows thick with tension. For the user of the hidden Mist Jutsu, this is supposed to be the ultimate equalizer, turning any fight into a deadly game of cat and mouse. But as effective as it is in the hands of someone like Zabuza Momochi, for most shinobi, it's a logistical nightmare. This jutsu envelopes the area in a dense mist, obscuring visibility for everyone, including the caster. Without advanced sensory skills or a strategy for navigating the fog, the user risks as much confusion as their enemies. While Zabuza pairs this technique with his mastery of silent killing, allowing him to strike with surgical precision, most ninja lack the training to make it work. The hidden Mist Jutsu is undeniably iconic, but its situational nature and steep learning curve limit its usability. For every shinobi who wields it effectively, dozens more find themselves stumbling blindly, lost in their own creation. It's a high-risk, high-reward move that demands more skill than most can muster. An unsuspecting enemy charges in, dispatching what they think is a harmless Shadow Clone, only for it to erupt in a massive explosion. The exploding Shadow Clone Jutsu is a spectacle of destruction, but beneath the fireworks lies a glaring flaw. It's a chakra hog. Creating a standard Shadow Clone already requires a significant amount of energy, as the user's chakra is divided equally among all clones. Adding an explosive element multiplies the cost, making this technique viable only for those with vast reserves of chakra. Even then, the success of the jutsu hinges on surprise. Once an opponent catches on, they'll avoid engaging clones altogether, rendering the technique moot. While the visual impact of the exploding Shadow Clone Jutsu is undeniable, it's a textbook example of style over substance. It's a flashy trick for a one-time shock factor, but in prolonged battles, its inefficiency makes it more liability than asset. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the most questionable jutsu of the ninja world, make sure to like and subscribe. There's more jutsu lore coming your way, and you won't want to miss it. A ninja sneaks behind their opponent, delivering a precise jab with their fingers to a rather unconventional target. 1,000 Years of Death is the perfect example of a jutsu designed purely for comedic effect. While it's hilarious in training scenarios, its practical use in combat is almost non-existent. This technique relies entirely on surprise and close-range accuracy, two factors that are nearly impossible to achieve against skilled opponents. Kakashi's use of it during Naruto's early training highlights its true purpose as a prank or teaching tool. It's not meant to incapacitate, it's meant to humiliate. Despite its lack of combat viability, 1,000 Years of Death has become a fan-favorite gag, embodying the lighter, more humorous side of ninja training. It's memorable, but let's be real. No one's using this in a serious fight. Summoning jutsu can be one of the most powerful techniques in a shinobi's arsenal, bringing forth creatures like Gamabunta or Katsuyu to turn the tide of battle. But not every summoning goes according to plan. For inexperienced users, this jutsu often results in embarrassing failures, tadpoles instead of toads, or small useless critters that add nothing to the fight. The success of this technique depends on three factors: the user's chakra control, their contract with the summoned creature, and their overall skill level. Without all three, the jutsu is a gamble, and in the heat of battle, that's a risk most can't afford. Even Naruto, in his early training, struggled to summon anything useful, often wasting precious energy on underwhelming results. When performed correctly, summoning jutsu is game-changing. When it fails, it's an outright liability, wasting chakra and leaving the user vulnerable. It's a stark reminder that power without control is meaningless. A ninja crouches under a poorly camouflaged sheet, blending in with the background, or at least, that's the hope. The hiding in surface technique, or Kakuremi no Jutsu, is the kind of jutsu that feels more at home in a cartoon skit than on a battlefield. Despite its simplicity, it's a staple of the Ninja Academy, taught to every budding shinobi during their early training days. The technique works by allowing the user to conceal themselves using nearby objects or fabric, relying on the environment for cover. In theory, it's an exercise in creativity and stealth, requiring the user to think quickly about how to avoid detection. In practice, it's painfully outdated. Against modern threats like sensory ninja, explosive tags, or wide-area jutsu, this technique is laughably ineffective. Kakuremi no Jutsu harks back to traditional ninja folklore, where such tricks might have been useful for espionage or ambushes. However, in the high-stakes battles of the Naruto universe, it's outclassed at every turn. Even during its intended use, the level of precision required to avoid detection makes it more of a chore than a solution. For the average shinobi, relying on this jutsu is akin to hiding under a tablecloth and hoping no one notices. It might work on occasion, but when it fails spectacularly. The hiding in surface technique may have a nostalgic charm for those who fondly remember their academy days, but as a combat tool, it's firmly stuck in the past. Naruto Uzumaki clasps his hands together, transforming into a scantily clad version of himself with an exaggeratedly attractive form. The result? His opponent, be they seasoned shinobi or fearsome warrior, collapses in a nosebleed-induced stupor. This is the sexy jutsu, a technique that is as hilarious as it is ridiculous. The sexy jutsu is a transformation technique designed entirely for distraction. Naruto uses it masterfully, but let's face it, it's not exactly a combat tool. It preys on the opponent's shock and discomfort, often working as a comedic relief in tense situations. But the moment the element of surprise wears off, the jutsu loses all effectiveness. While undeniably iconic, the sexy jutsu lacks any strategic depth. It's Naruto's signature prank, a symbol of his mischievous nature, but it has no place in serious battles. The technique is a reminder that not all ninja arts are meant to be taken seriously. For all its charm, Oiroku no Jutsu is more of a punchline than a practical jutsu. With a loud shout and a dramatic leap, the shinobi flies through the air, delivering a powerful kick that lands with explosive force. That's dynamic entry, one of the most theatrical moves in the ninja world. While undeniably entertaining, it's also wildly impractical in almost every combat scenario. Dynamic entry relies on momentum and surprise. The user launches themselves toward their opponent, hoping to land a decisive strike before the enemy can react. The problem? It's telegraphed from a mile away. The loud shout, the exaggerated movement. It all screams, "Here I come," giving the target plenty of time to dodge or counterattack. The technique's comedic value has earned it a special place in the hearts of fans, but as a combat tool, it's laughably flawed. Dynamic entry is the ultimate example of style over substance, flashy, memorable, and completely impractical in real fights. Utakata blows a delicate, shimmering bubble that floats lazily through the air. At first glance, it seems harmless, even whimsical, but within that fragile sphere lies explosive potential. Bubble jutsu combines elegance with power, but it comes with a host of limitations that make it more of a liability than an asset. The bubbles are slow and easy to evade, requiring the user to be exceptionally strategic to make them effective. In high-speed combat, the delay between creating and detonating a bubble often leaves the user vulnerable. Additionally, the technique demands precise chakra control, making it inaccessible to most shinobi. While visually stunning, bubble jutsu struggles to deliver in the chaotic reality of ninja battles. It's a niche tool that works best in specific scenarios but falls short as a reliable combat technique. For all its beauty, it's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, even in the ninja world. The enemy freezes mid-step, their body locked in place as if invisible chains have wrapped around them. At first, it seems like the temporary paralysis jutsu is the ultimate trump card, a technique that stops opponents in their tracks without the need for direct combat. But beneath the surface, this jutsu reveals itself as one of the most impractical tools in a shinobi's arsenal. The concept is simple. Using chakra, the user halts the opponent's movement, leaving them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. However, The effectiveness of Kanashibari no Jutsu is heavily reliant on the user's chakra control and strength relative to their target. Against weaker enemies, it's a useful technique, but against skilled or high chakra opponents, breaking free is a matter of seconds, if not instant. What's more, the jutsu requires intense concentration. The user must maintain focus to keep the opponent immobilized, leaving themselves vulnerable to attacks from other directions. In a one-on-one fight, it might give a brief advantage, but in chaotic battlefields or team scenarios, the risks often outweigh the benefits. Kanashibari no Jutsu highlights the divide between theory and practice in the ninja world. On paper, it's a powerful utility move. In reality, it's situational at best, and a glaring liability at worst. For most shinobi, it's a technique they outgrow quickly, leaving it behind as they develop more versatile and reliable strategies. While its potential is undeniable, the temporary Paralysis Jutsu is ultimately a short-lived tool in the arsenal of any serious just. A feral howl echoes through the battlefield as Kiba, Inuzuka, and Akamaru charge forward, their forms blurred in unison. The Beast Imitation Jutsu allows a shinobi and their animal partner to synchronize movements perfectly, turning them into a single, devastating combat force. At least, that's the idea. The reality of this technique is far less impressive when put under scrutiny. Jujin Bunshin works by transforming the animal partner, typically Akamaru, into a human-like version of the user. This heightened synchronization amplifies speed and physical power, making the duo effective in close-quarters combat. However, the jutsu's reliance on brute force over strategy is its most glaring flaw. Skilled opponents quickly adapt to its predictable attack patterns, and its focus on close-range fighting leaves the user vulnerable to counters or long-range ninjutsu. Additionally, Jujin Bunshin is heavily reliant on the partner's capabilities. If the animal companion is incapacitated or unavailable, the technique becomes useless. It's a jutsu with narrow applications, best suited for one-on-one scenarios rather than the dynamic and unpredictable nature of large-scale battles. While it showcases the unique bond between ninja and beast, the Beast Imitation Jutsu ultimately falls short of being a truly versatile technique. It's a reminder that raw power alone isn't enough to guarantee victory in the jutsu world. Two bells dangle provocatively from Kakashi Hatake's hip, their soft chime taunting the trio of young genin tasked with capturing them. The bell test is a rite of passage for many aspiring shinobi, designed to teach teamwork and adaptability. However, calling it a jutsu is generous. It's more of an exercise than a practical combat strategy. The premise is simple. The genin must retrieve the bells from their sensei within a set time limit. The twist is that it's deliberately designed to be nearly impossible. Kakashi's overwhelming skill forces the students to think creatively, learning to rely on each other rather than trying to win individually. While the test's purpose is noble, its execution often leaves participants frustrated, and its direct application in real-world combat is non-existent. The bell test serves as a teaching tool, not a battlefield tactic. Its lessons are invaluable, highlighting the importance of teamwork, strategy, and humility. But the jutsu itself lacks any practical use. It's symbolic more than functional, a reminder that the path of a shinobi is as much about personal growth as it is about mastering techniques. As iconic as it is within the story, it remains firmly in the realm of training exercises, with no place in actual combat scenarios. Jiraiya, the legendary Toad Sage, crouches as his white mane grows, twisting and hardening into a defensive cocoon of razor-sharp spikes. Harri Jizo, or Hair Jutsu, transforms the user's hair into a weaponized shield, offering both offense and defense in a single move. While visually striking and undoubtedly creative, the jutsu's limitations quickly reveal themselves when examined closely. The technique's primary flaw lies in its focus. While Harri Jizo provides impressive protection against physical attacks, its coverage is limited to the immediate area around the user. Long-range ninjutsu, explosive tags, or genjutsu can bypass the hair entirely, rendering the shield ineffective. Moreover, the jutsu is incredibly chakra-intensive. Hardening and manipulating hair into a steel-like structure takes a toll, limiting its viability in prolonged battles. Additionally, the offensive capabilities of Harri Jizo are situational at best. The spikes can deter close-range attackers, but only if they're reckless enough to charge directly into them. Most skilled opponents recognize the jutsu's limited range and adjust their tactics accordingly. Harri Jizo stands as a testament to Jiraiya's ingenuity, but it's far from a perfect technique. It's useful in the right hands and scenarios, but its narrow applications and high chakra cost make it more of a niche tool than a staple in a shinobi's arsenal. Which jutsu do you think deserves the title of the absolute worst? Did we leave out any that you think should have made the list? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of jutsu. See you in the next video.